In a town where everyone knows your name, silence can be more dangerous than noise. Grafton, Michigan, a small industrial town with quiet streets, faded storefronts, and a police department that smiled for cameras but looked the other way when power was abused. Layla Reed was a local reporter, not a celebrity, not a voice of the people, just a black woman with a notebook, a battered laptop, and a stubborn belief that truth mattered. She covered potholes and bake sales, until the day she wrote about a black teen who was beaten during a traffic stop. And that's when the calls started. "You should be careful what you write, Ms. Reed." Then came the whispers. Then the surveillance. Then, one cold morning, a headline that didn't belong to her. Local journalist arrested in drug sting. Crack cocaine. Felony charges. A police report full of holes. Her press badge didn't protect her. This is the story of how a journalist became the story, and how truth, in the wrong place, at the wrong time, can become a threat. Layla Reed wasn't born in Grafton, Michigan, but it was the town where she found her voice. With a population just under 12,000, Grafton had the kind of charm that made the evening news feel unnecessary. Church cookouts, high school football, a mayor who wore the same coat to every Veterans Day parade. But beneath the Norman Rockwell postcard smiles, Grafton had secrets. Black residents, who made up just 18% of the town, knew which streets to avoid at night. They knew that if you were pulled over by the wrong cop, your tone could mean the difference between a warning and a ride downtown. And they all knew the name Sheriff Hank Whitaker. Layla had come to Grafton after graduating from Michigan State, with a journalism degree and more student debt than career options. She took a job at the Grafton County Sentinel, a struggling weekly paper that mostly reported on city council meetings and tractor pulls. At first, she followed the formula. She covered school fundraisers, profiled new business owners, even did a piece on the mayor's golden retriever. But then a story crossed her desk that made her stop. A black teenager, Marcus Bell, had been hospitalized after what the police called a routine traffic stop gone wrong. No video, no charges, just silence. Layla called the hospital, called the boy's mother, called the police station. The answers didn't match. She wrote the story anyway. Titled it, "What Really Happened to Marcus Bell." Sheriff Hank Whitaker read her article the same night it ran. At 62, Whitaker was a man of routine. He wore pressed uniforms, kept his boots shined, and drank his coffee black with no sugar, just like his father. He had been sheriff for 19 years. Untouchable. What most didn't know, and what Layla couldn't yet see, was that Whitaker carried a hatred as polished as his badge. As a child, he had grown up in one of the only white families in a public housing complex on the east side of Flint. He never forgot the boys who cornered him after school, called him names, stole his lunch money. They were black, and in his mind, they had taken something from him he never got back. Dignity. That childhood trauma calcified into bitterness, and now, with a badge and a title, Hank Whitaker had power. Layla's article, with its questions and implications, wasn't just journalism to him. It was war. The next morning, Layla found her car windshield cracked, no note, no witnesses. That same week, a source she called for comment never returned her messages again. The paper's editor, a nervous man with thinning hair, told her quietly, "Maybe don't stir things up too much next time, Layla." She smiled, closed her notebook, and wrote harder. Truth wasn't supposed to be easy, especially in Grafton. Layla Reed didn't stop writing. After her article on Marcus Bell, she published 2 more. One exposing ticket quotas that targeted black residents, another questioning missing police footage. Sheriff Hank Whitaker read every word. He sat in his office with Deputy Rick Mathers, eyes fixed on the latest front page of the Sentinel. "She's making a mess," Whitaker growled. "She's making noise," Rick replied. "You want me to shut her up?" Whitaker didn't answer. He just stared at her byline, then at the wall behind Rick, where an old map of the county hung, dotted with red pins. "No," he finally said. "Let's do it smart." That night, Layla received an anonymous tip about drugs moving through an abandoned auto garage on the south side. She drove by the next afternoon, took photos from her car, then left. That same evening, she returned home to find her apartment door cracked open. Nothing was missing, just shifted. A coat hanger she never touched was on the floor, her bookshelf slightly tilted. She filed a report. The officer shrugged. Probably nothing. But she knew better. 2 days later, it happened. Layla stepped out of the Sentinel's office with her coffee and keys when a dark sedan pulled up fast. 2 plainclothes officers jumped out. "Layla Reed, you're under arrest. Possession with intent to distribute." Her coffee dropped to the pavement. Her hands went up instinctively. They cuffed her. No Miranda rights. No explanation beyond that one accusation. People from nearby stores stepped out to watch. Her editor froze at the door. "What is this?" Layla cried. "Ask your lawyer," one of the officers muttered. In the squad car, she stared ahead as rain hit the windshield. She wasn't confused. She was certain this wasn't justice. It was punishment. They claimed she had crack cocaine in her glove box, claimed she'd been under surveillance for weeks. The arrest report was full of holes. No body cam footage, a search warrant that looked like a bad photocopy, but still they charged her. Sheriff Whitaker stood at the press podium the next day and said, "We don't care if you're a janitor or a journalist. Break the law and we'll find you." The holding cells smelled like bleach, metal, and something sour underneath. Layla sat on the hard bench with her knees pulled up, arms wrapped around herself. Not from fear, but from exhaustion. No one had called her. No lawyer had come. The lights never turned off. A younger officer passed by her cell around midnight. He paused. "You don't look like a dealer," he muttered. Layla looked up. "I'm not." He walked away without another word. In the morning, the guards moved her to county jail. There, the cell was colder, louder. Women yelled, fought, laughed like nothing mattered. She didn't belong there, and that's exactly what made her dangerous. Outside, her arrest made headlines. Local reporter caught in drug raid. Reed, journalist or trafficker? The town that once nodded to her on the sidewalk now looked away. Her editor at the Sentinel issued a brief statement. "We are shocked by the allegations and cooperating fully with authorities." He didn't visit. Her phone was taken. Her laptop was seized as potential evidence. Layla had only her thoughts, and the sound of the metal door clicking shut each night. But something inside her was growing, not bitterness, not fear. The first week was silence. No calls, no court date, just noise and neon light in a cell that never went dark. Layla didn't cry. She listened, to the rhythm of locks turning, to the whispered stories in neighboring cells. One girl, maybe 19, whispered through the wall, "They got you too?" "Yeah," Layla replied. "Figures. You smart ones scare 'em." She started writing on toilet paper, pencil shavings, margins of court forms. Sentences came in fragments, truth squeezed into corners. She remembered something her grandmother once told her. Even a whisper becomes thunder when you don't stop. She wouldn't stop, not even here. On the outside, a whisper turned into a spark. A former source, Miss Dorsey, a retired librarian, didn't believe the charges. She called a cousin, who called a niece, who called a lawyer in Detroit. Within days, a small protest formed outside the Grafton courthouse. 3 people, then 10. Then a news van pulled up. "Free the press," one sign read. A law student published a blog post. "Journalist jailed. Grafton's silence problem." On day 12, a black civil rights attorney named Marvin Bell drove into town. "Ms. Reed," he said as he sat across from her in the jail visitation room. "You've been set up." Layla leaned forward, eyes steady. "I know. The question is, how far are they willing to go?" Sheriff Whitaker sat alone in his office, staring at the television. Protesters, signs, not in Chicago, not in Detroit, in his town. Free Layla Reid. Truth is not a crime. A camera caught him walking past reporters. He didn't stop, didn't speak. Behind the scenes, pressure was building. The Detroit Free Press called his department 3 times. A state rep posted about Layla's case. "The sheriff's office is under attack by radical left media," he growled to his deputy. "Then maybe we hit back," Mathers said. The next day, the sheriff's office released new evidence. Blurry photos of a woman meeting a known dealer, taken weeks before the arrest. It wasn't Layla, but it was enough to feed local doubt. Online comments turned ugly. She played victim and got caught. Typical race card garbage. Layla stared at the photo printed in the paper. The woman in it was taller. Different jacket. Didn't matter. She had learned long ago, when a lie is loud, the truth must be louder. With attorney Marvin Bell's help, she drafted an open letter from jail. In it, she wrote, "They want you to believe I'm a criminal, not a reporter. That I was pushing drugs, not questions. That I belong in a cell, not in a newsroom. But I know why I'm here. And so do you." The letter spread fast. Twitter, Instagram. A podcast featured her voice, read by an actress, word for word. A protest doubled, then tripled. Former Sentinel readers cancelled subscriptions. A media non-profit offered legal support. And somewhere in the mess, the town began to remember who Layla was. Not a threat, not a headline. A woman with a pen who told the truth and paid for it. The morning air in Grafton was sharper than usual. It wasn't just the cold. It was change. The Michigan State Attorney General's office had launched an inquiry. Marvin Bell stood before a packed press conference, holding up a thick manila folder. "We have reason to believe that the arrest of Ms. Layla Reid was not only unlawful, but orchestrated by officials in the Grafton County Sheriff's Office to silence her reporting." Evidence mounted fast. The photos were fake. The dealer was a paid informant. The search warrant, signed by a judge who later admitted he never saw Layla's name on it. And the drugs, never tested. Sheriff Whitaker was called in for questioning. He didn't show up. That evening, his cruiser was found parked outside his cabin near Lake Breck. The badge left on the seat. No note, just silence.